Exclusive. The shocking truth about weed spirituality that will haunt you at midnight. In a small, forgotten town, there was a whisper that crawled through the alleys and echoed through the woods. It spoke of a mysterious strain of weed, one that promised not just a high, but a spiritual awakening. They called it Midnight's Breath, and it was said to unlock the very depths of your soul, even the darkest corners you didn't know existed. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, a chill settled in the air, making everyone feel as if they were being watched. People would gather under the old oak tree, faces illuminated by flickering flames, eyes wide with anticipation. But what they didn't know was that some secrets are best left buried. And this one would haunt them. That a local legend claimed that those who dared to smoke Midnight's Breath were not just high, they were transported. Some spoke of vibrant colors swirling around them, of whispers from long-lost ancestors, and of visions that made the hair on their arms stand on end. Others returned with stories of terror, saying they felt something sinister lurking behind their closed eyelids. Loud gasps replaced laughter around the fire, and the thrill turned into horror as tales grew more chilling. The strain didn't just reveal. It twisted the very fabric of their realities, unearthing fears they buried deep within. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the darkened sky, a group of friends gathered, driven by curiosity. Among them was Mia, her heart pounding in suspense, almost as if it knew something was wrong. A slip of paper, hand-drawn instructions lay crumpled on the ground, claiming that the smoke would act as a bridge between worlds. As they watched the fire crackle, a strange presence filled the air. Nervous glances exchanged, hearts racing. What were they getting into? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the first puff of Midnight's Breath touched their lips, the world shifted. Colors distorted, shadows danced, and shrill whispers filled their ears. But then, an unsettling silence, a void that stole their breath. Mia's throat tightened, her heart racing like a war drum. Where had they gone? Their laughter faded, replaced by muffled cries for help. She reached out, but the darkness twisted her reality. Was she trapped in a nightmare? Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the silence, reverberating through the trees like a gunshot. The air turned cold, and despair seeped into the ground. What had they unleashed? What was waiting for them on the other side? As Mia stared wide-eyed into the abyss, questions consumed her. They needed answers. But what if the truth was more terrifying than they could ever imagine? The scream echoed like a haunting melody, weaving through the trees and wrapping around Mia's senses. Panic gripped her heart, squeezing tightly. Her friends, where were they? They had vanished into the stifling blackness that now enveloped her. The fire flickered intermittently, casting monstrous shadows that twisted and contorted under the nearby oak tree. Mia? The voice was familiar, but the panic and desperation behind it made it unrecognizable. It was Jake, his usually confident tone replaced by fear. She turned toward the sound, but the darkness swallowed her movements, each step feeling heavier than the last. Mia, help. I can't see. The dread pooling in her stomach spilled over, igniting instincts she didn't know she possessed. The forest was alive, buzzing with energy, but it felt sinister, a hungry beast waiting for the moment to strike. Hold on, she yelled, trying to sound braver than she felt. She fought against the void, blundering forward, hands outstretched. The air thickened, making it hard to breathe, crawling against her skin like a multitude of unseen eyes. Her mind raced, thoughts colliding violently. Could it be the Midnight's Breath at work? Had they really opened some door that shouldn't have been touched? Her fingers grazed something warm and solid. Relief flooded through her. She grabbed Jake's hand tightly, but just as she found him, a different voice cut through the chaos. Mia, get away. It was Leo, his warning punctuated by a guttural growl that vibrated through the ground. She swung around, heart pounding wildly as she scanned for him. He was shadowed, just a few feet away, his body tense and coiled like a spring. "What do you mean?" she shouted, instinctively clutching Jake's hand tighter as terror washed over her like a cold wave. "We can't leave. We have to find the others." Leo's eyes were wide, darting in every direction like a frightened animal. "No, you don't understand. This isn't right." The forest seemed to shift at his words, the trees bowing in agreement, the wind howling like a warning siren. Mia pressed Jake closer, her mind racing. "What are you talking about? What did we do?" "I saw something," Leo gulped, his voice shaking. "When I was taken, I saw faces in the darkness. Not ours, but others. They're trapped. We need to go before they come for us." Every muscle in Mia's body nodded. They hadn't just crossed into another realm, they had trespassed into something malevolent. Before she could respond, a tremor rippled through the ground, then darkness fell heavier. Shapes flickered at the edges of her vision. She could barely think. She needed to wake up from this nightmare. A chilling laugh erupted, echoing through the treetops, weaving through their minds like a spell. They stumbled back, fear gripping them like a vice. Suddenly, shadows lunged toward them. Mia's grip tightened around Jake's hand. "We have to go now," she screamed. A flash of light pierced through the oppressive blackness, a potential escape route shimmering in the distance. "Run," Leo shouted, and they wheeled about, sprinting toward the glimmering hope. But the shadows pursued, whispering horrendous promises of what awaited them in the dark. Just as they were about to reach the light, a voice croaked just behind them, "You cannot leave." A tremor of realization gripped Mia. They weren't meant to escape. What awaited them in that light? Or would the darkness consume them first? The questions clawed at her sanity as the light flickered, teasing them, leaving them to wonder what fate awaited on the other side. The blinding light pulsed, a beacon fighting against the looming shadows that coiled around them. This had to be their way out. But as Mia propelled herself forward, her heart thundered with the weight of desperation. "Faster," Leo urged, his voice strained, barely audible over the chaos erupting behind them. The shadows hissed, longing to merge with them, their whispers growing louder, clawing at the edges of Mia's mind. "Mia, I can't," Jake gasped, their frantic flight taking a toll on him. She felt the warmth of his hand begin to slip away, and panic surged. She couldn't let him go. She wouldn't. "Don't you dare stop." With her other hand, she grabbed his arm, yanking him in her direction. The oppressive fear gnawed at her. Just then, a thick vine shot out from the darkness, wrapping around Jake's ankle. He stumbled and fell, the scream stuck in her throat. "Get up," she screamed, yanking with all her strength, but the shadows tightened like a vice around Jake's leg. She could see his face, panic-stricken, eyes wide. The shadows shifted, forming outlines of grotesque figures, their faces a blend of anguish and fury. They were trapped souls, writhing, reaching out with arms that congealed like tendrils in the darkness. "Leave me. Go," Jake cried out, terror bleeding into his voice. Fear rippled through Mia, a gut-wrenching ache. "No, I want to leave you." She could hear the echoes of the caught souls whispering dreadful secrets, warning of fates worse than death. Leo was moving ahead, shouting words of encouragement. "Come on, Mia. You're almost there." But the relentless shadows clawed at their very souls, as if they could taste the fear radiating off them. Taking one last look at Jake, Mia made a split-second decision. She ripped the vine away, forcing herself to believe the bonds could break. "On three," she yelled. "1, 2, 3. They yanked hard together. The vine snapped, sending a chill cascading over them as Jake stumbled to his feet. "Run!" Leo screamed again, and they took off, legs pumping furiously, the light ahead pulsating like a heartbeat, strong and alive. Just 20 feet to the salvation, and yet it felt like miles. The laughter grew, and Mia's breath hitched. They barreled towards the light, but just before reaching it, a deep, booming voice echoed through the woods, freezing her in place. "You think you can leave?" Dread bombarded Mia, every instinct screaming to stop. She glanced back. The shadows were retreating for the moment, but something darker loomed behind them, a formless creature thriving in the chaos. It surged forward, hungry and relentless, and in that instant, Mia understood. They were not just up against darkness. They were fighting against the embodiment of their fears, their failures, a twisted reflection of their deepest insecurities. "What is it?" she yelled desperately to Leo, but he was already shaking his head, eyes wide with terror. "It can't reach us. Just keep going." They surged towards the light, its promise flickering with hope as they felt the warmth on their skin, the shadows grasping at their backs, pushing them forward as if propelled by sheer determination. With one final leap, they burst into the light, and everything vanished in a blinding flash. Silence enveloped them, a stillness that felt foreign. Mia blinked as colors returned, vibrant and alive. Had they made it? Or was this just another cruel trick? But as she breathed, the fear still gnawed at her insides. They were safe for now, except the darkness lingered, whispering truths that couldn't be ignored. They could feel it behind them, lurking, waiting for weaknesses to exploit. Mia had a sinking feeling that escaping the woods was only the beginning. What horrors awaited them in the world beyond? She could almost hear the laughter echoing in her mind, a reminder of the darkness still within reach. "Where are we?" Jake asked, voice shaking. As they turned to face their new reality, a gut-wrenching thought entered Mia's mind. What if the horrors outside were merely a reflection of what they had awakened? Could they ever truly escape? The answer hung thick and uneasy in the air. They were alive, but at what cost? And who would come for them next? The flash faded away, leaving a sickly gray mist in its wake. Mia's heart raced as she looked around. They stood in a desolate landscape, a ghostly replica of the woods they'd just escaped. The trees licked the sky with twisted branches, their leaves blackened and brittle. It felt empty, hauntingly so, as if life itself had been sucked away. "Where are we?" Jake whispered again, his voice barely a tremor, as if the very sound of it would summon the darkness back. "I don't know," Mia replied, but a chill skidded down her spine. She could feel the shadows lurking at the edges, waiting, hungry for their return. The world felt absolutely wrong, a corrupted mirror reflecting only their fears. "They can't follow us here, right?" Jake asked, searching her eyes for reassurance. The way he held his breath suggested he wasn't convinced. But Mia couldn't form words. Her throat felt tight, constricted by the knot of dread that had taken residence there. She looked to Leo for answers, but he was lost in thought, his brow furrowed. "Maybe this is a trap," he finally said, his hands trembling as he ran them through his hair. "We have to keep moving." Their feet crunched on gravel, and the sound echoed unnervingly. Each step felt like a countdown, a reminder that danger loomed close, just out of sight. Shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, as if waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The wind howled, and with it came the whispering laughter again, mocking their vulnerability. "What if they can?" Mia said, shaking with apprehension. "What if we've just walked into their playground?" Suddenly, a low rumble vibrated through the ground, making them all freeze. Dust clouded in the air like smoke, and Mia felt the earth quiver beneath her feet. "It could be nothing good. We can't stay here," Leo shouted, the urgency in his voice urging them into motion. They turned to run just as a massive shadow loomed over them, a figure crawling from the depths of darkness. It rose slowly, taking form an enormous, grotesque monstrosity, made of twisting tendrils and eyes that shimmered with malicious glee. Mia's breath caught, her body going rigid as terror surged within her. "What is that?" she gasped. "The darkness," Leo muttered, eyes wide, filled with despair. "It's come for us." It lunged forward, its mouth gaping open in a silent scream, revealing jagged teeth glistening with an oily sheen. The noise of its hunger was deafening, a mortal choir of their fears. "We have to fight," Jake shouted, backing away, but where were they supposed to go? The twisted reality they stood in offered no escape. "Fight? With what?" Mia cried, desperation cracking her voice. She looked helplessly around, but there was nothing but deathly silence and the encroaching horror. It was snatching away their hope, leaving nothing but despair to cling to. And then, within the pit of her stomach, a flicker ignited, a tiny spark flickering against the dark. What if she began, her mind racing back to the shadows that had tormented them, the truth they had unearthed in the woods? What if we confront it? What if we don't run? What if we face our fears? Jake and Leo stared at her, uncertain, yet compelled by the light of her conviction. They're just shadows of what we hold inside. She pressed on, the tremble in her voice replaced by a growing resolve. If we can harness that belief, we can push it away. But what if it just consumes us? Jake's voice betrayed his fear, but Mia could see something shift in his gaze, the tiny flicker of hope she had felt earlier. They gathered, fists clenched, hearts pounding. The monster loomed closer, but their resolve began to wrap around them, forming an invisible shield against the suffocating dread. On three, Mia whispered, feeling the energy crackle in the air around them. Maybe, just maybe, they could fight the very essence of their insecurities. Maybe they could shatter the horror that had them trapped. But just as Mia opened her mouth to count, the forest screamed a haunting wail that resonated throughout the nightmare realm. They felt the ground shake beneath their feet, and a realization dawned on them. Confronting darkness required more than courage. "Something's coming," Leo said, voice low, barely audible over the oncoming storm. Mia's heart sank as the sky began to bleed crimson, hints of a deeper horror weaving their way into this nightmare. As she prepared to face this unimaginable torment, a creeping suspicion flooded her mind. What if they were never supposed to escape? What if this was all part of the twisted game? And as that thought ripped through her, darkness seemed to swirl around them, eager to engulf them once more. What lay beyond this darkness? What truths were hidden that they weren't ready to face? The shadows twisted tighter, and Mia felt the weight of fear crushing down on her chest. She fought to draw a breath as the earth trembled beneath their feet, rumbling with an ominous rhythm. "Now, we have to act," Mia shouted, her voice a jagged echo against the monstrous laughter that filled the air. With a nod, Jake and Leo fell into place beside her, their faces pale but resolute. They held hands in a tight circle, and Mia closed her eyes, focusing on the flicker of hope inside her. As she took a deep breath, the sky above them raged with dark clouds, swirling like a tempest ready to unleash its wrath. Together, they began to count. 1, 2. The darkness hesitated, a brief moment of uncertainty flickering in its monstrous form. 3. They thrust their hands forward, pouring everything they had into that singular gesture. For a split second, it felt as if the world might buckle under the force of their combined will. The shadows recoiled, like a menacing tide actually thrown back by the rise of humanity's light. But it was short-lived. With a horrific roar, the creature lunged, thrashing at the air as if trying to claw its way through their shield. Sharp tendrils crackled like lightning, whips of darkness striving to ensnare them. One of them reached Mia, wrapping around her ankle with a chilling grip. "Mia!" Jake cried, his eyes wide with horror. Just before panic set in completely, she felt that spark ignite again, stronger, more vivid this time. She closed her eyes once more, digging into her core, tapping into all the moments of joy, love, and hope she had ever known. They swelled in her heart, pushing back against the shadows coiling nearer. "I'm not afraid," she yelled, forcing the words through the terror constricting her throat. Around them, the air thickened, shimmering like a distorted reflection. If this beast was born of their fears, then surely their courage would dim its power. "I'm not afraid," echoed Leo, his voice rising above the chaos. Jake joined in, chanting it back and forth like a mantra, a fierce bridge they were building against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the creature. "I can feel your light." It recoiled, the eyes on its million faces blaring as they darted around in fear. It lunged again, bucking against their combined resolve, but the tension in the air felt different now. Maybe they could push back. Maybe it was all just an illusion built on their own insecurities, and this swirling nightmare could be shattered with belief alone. But with every moment, the sky grew darker. The ground quaked violently, sending shockwaves that rattled their bones. "Look out!" Leo shouted, pointing to a darker shadow emerging from the haze. Larger, more menacing than the first, this new creature showcased a swarm of jagged teeth and eyes aflame with an insatiable hunger. This one is worse," Jake gasped, his voice trembling now. The two monsters clashed together in a deafening cacophony of chaos and despair. Darkness against light. Mia could feel it all around them, the fear threatening to break through their fragile trust in themselves. "Fight, Mia," Leo urged, his grip tightening like a vice around her wrist. "Don't give in." Together, Mia shouted, feeling the weight of the world crash down. They stood there, three souls interlocked in battle, as night swallowed the last remnants of twilight. But just as she was about to call upon that light again, a feeling of dread settled in. What if the darkness was right? What if there was no escape? And then came the whispered echo of forgotten memories, clawing at her mind. Faces, once familiar, twisted into nightmarish reflections. What if it's all in our heads, Mia? Leo's voice broke through her thoughts, shaky and unsure. What if it's us? Just then, a scream of agony erupted from Jake, who fell to the ground, tendrils wrapping around him, sucking him into the void. Mia, help! Panic surged through her, obliterating her resolve. The dawn of despair dulling the glow inside her chest to flicker quickly, succumbing to shadows. As she watched, helplessly, the abyss crept closer, faces of lost memories whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. What truth lurked just beyond the edge of that darkness? What horrors were they about to confront next? The air crackled with tension as Jake's scream echoed around them, a chilling sound that clawed at Mia's insides. Her heart pounded like a war drum, drowning out everything else. As darkness lashed out, tendrils of despair reached toward Jake, who writhed helplessly on the ground, his face a mask of terror. Mia, you have to, he gasped, his words swallowed by a fresh wave of shadows that spiraled around him. No, Mia screamed, her voice cracking. She felt the weight of hopelessness crashing down again, but something deep within her flickered, an ember struggling against the tempest. Don't let it take him, Leo shouted, his grip tightening as the shadows thrashed against their barrier. This was no ordinary battle. This was a fight for survival, a desperate stand against the very things that haunted them. Mia dug deeper, the memories rushing back as whispers turned to screams, faces of those she loved, of moments once filled with laughter, now twisted in agony. But one memory, bright and pure, broke through. The first day she and Jake had become friends, laughing under the warm sun. It was a spark, a glimmer of light inside the encroaching void. Remember when we were kids? She yelled, her voice cutting through the cacophony. When nothing scared us. We can face this. We have to face this. Jake's eyes locked onto hers, struggling through the pain. There was a flicker, a moment where Mia felt that link between them, as if her heart beat in rhythm with his. Don't you let go, she cried. With a burst of determination, Mia raised her hands again, pushing against the darkness with everything she had. I'm stronger than you, she screamed, her voice rising, filled with fierce defiance. Every jolt of fear coursing through her ignited that flicker into a blazing inferno. I am not afraid. The words flowed from her like a raging river, crashing powerfully into the shadows. Each syllable felt like fire against ice, illuminating the eerie landscape around them. Leo joined in. We're not afraid. Not now, not ever. His voice was raw, but strong. The shadows quivered at their looming strength, recoiling as if stung by a bee. Suddenly, the second creature, larger and hungrier, bellowed, shaking the ground beneath their feet. It shrieked for their despair, but as its scream reverberated, Mia felt it lose its grip on Jake. Their unity was a shield, a glowing barrier ready to tear through the darkness. Hold on, Jake, Mia urged, determination flooding her veins. She reached out, summoning every last ounce of radiant hope from their shared memories, brandishing it against the onslaught. But just as it seemed the tide was turning, the shadows shifted violently, morphing and contorting into faces she recognized, faces of fears and regrets she had long buried. They twisted into grotesque shapes, carrying her deepest insecurities like a banner. Are you really ready to face us, Mia? A voice dripped from the darkness, silky and seductive. This isn't just about them, it's about you. Mia faltered, the ground trembling beneath her once more. What if it's true? What if I'm the one holding you back? The darkness surged forward, edged teeth bared in a predatory grin. With the taunting laughter echoing around them, it pulsated like thunderous waves, and suddenly she was drowning in a sea of uncertainty. Together, Leo shouted desperately, pulling Mia back. We can't let it win. We have to believe. Her resolve sparkled back to life as she clutched Leo's hand. You're right. We are more than this. But a piece of her still hesitated, caught between the light they craved and the darkness that knew her just too well. Just then, as the other monster staggered back, a chilling realization cut through the struggle. The true battle lay inside her mind. Could courage outweigh doubt? Could hope dismantle despair? The shadows writhed closer, ready to swallow them whole. What buried truths awaited Mia's discovery? And how could they prevail against an enemy so intimately tied to her own soul? The shadows whirled ominously around them, a tempest of despair that threatened to crush every glimmer of hope. Mia felt Leo's grip tighten, his fingernails digging into her skin as if anchoring her to the present. She clenched her eyes shut and took a deep breath, the air thick with a pungent mixture of fear and rage. "Face it, Mia." The silky voice permeated the chaos, echoing her darkest thoughts. "You've always been afraid. Look at Jake. What if it's too late?" Her heart convulsed at the sight of Jake, still battling the tendrils of darkness that snaked around him, pulling him deeper into despair. She couldn't let that be their fate. She couldn't lose him to some twisted manifestation of her doubts. "Not again. I am not afraid," she shouted, pushing against the shadows, feeding them with her defiance. "You don't control me." But the more she struggled, the more the darkness twisted itself, drawing strength from her uncertainty. It transformed into a swirling vortex of memories, each one a knife carving deeper into her insecurities. Images of failures, missed opportunities, and every hurtful word spoken by others flooded her mind. "Remember the looks they gave you? The laughter? You were never good enough, Mia." "No," she cried out, shaking her head, her voice shaky yet resolute. A fire smoldered in her chest, igniting her spirit, and she pushed back further. "Those are lies." Leo's voice surged beside hers, a steady anchor amidst the chaos. "Mia, you have to believe in yourself. You're stronger than any of this." His faith radiated through their connection, filling the gaps in her resolve. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, twisting like smoke as if Leo's words struck a nerve. But the voice echoed through the darkness once more, sharper than any dagger. "But what about when you let him down? You left him behind." The sight of Jake's anguished face flooded with a myriad of emotions: betrayal, fear, desperation. Her stomach lurched. She hadn't been there for him time and time again. Jake, she felt the tears streaming down her cheeks, the weight threatening to crush her. The voices from her past, those haunting memories, curled at her mind with glinting fangs. "No," she shouted defiantly, fusing her resolve with Leo's. "He deserves better, and I won't abandon him again." As if sensing the shift in her energy, the darkness screeched in rage, a shrieking mass that lunged forward like a flurry of arrows. Each shadowy tendril lashed out, but they met Mia and Leo's combined strength like a wall of fire. The shadows hissed and sizzled, struggling against the radiant glow emanating from their joined hands. "Keep pushing," Leo urged, every syllable distorted with urgency. Beneath their feet, the ground trembled, fissures opening up, spitting embers of light. Mia's mind raced to all the moments of strength she'd held on to in times of weakness. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," she shouted, her voice rolling like thunder. "We're fighting for each other. For Jake." The shadows stuttered, their connection to her wavering. Her memories began to shift as well, the laughter of her childhood friends sparking a warmth within her. The image of Jake's smile, bright and full of life, blossomed in her heart. Together, she breathed, raising her arms high, channeling every fragment of hope she could muster. "We overcome this darkness." As the light erupted around them, shards of memories showering like stars, Mia felt the tangible weight of their convergence, the warmth of love, friendship, and unity. But just as victory began to crystallize, the largest shadow hunched lower, sharpening its focus on Mia. Its eyes glowed a deep, sinister red, emboldened as it roared with a voice that was unmistakably familiar, a dark echo from deep within her past. "You cannot escape yourself, Mia. I am you." With a shuddering shock, Mia's heart dropped. This was not just an external battle. This was an insidious confrontation with the very essence of her being. And in that moment, the ground beneath them shattered. As the abyss opened wide, inviting, enticing, and filled with all her fears, Mia understood that the struggle was far from over. What awaited her in the depths below? Would she dare to plunge deeper, Or had she already lost everything? The darkness yawned beneath her, a vast void ready to consume her whole. Mia's pulse quickened, racing like a wild horse trying to escape the inevitable. Fragments of light flickered but felt weak against the hungry abyss. She felt Leo's grip slipping on her hand as panic clutched her heart. Mia, his voice registered, laced with urgency. We have to hold on. Don't let it win. She felt suspended, teetering on the edge of something unfathomable. Just as her mind began to spiral into the echoes of her fears, she heard Jake's voice rise through the internal chaos. Mia, I'm here. You have to fight. The sound cut through the thick fog of despair, stirring something deep within her. Memories of laughter and late-night talks flooded in, reminding her of the bond they shared. Her resolve started to harden. From the dark depths, she could hear the mocking echoes say, "He's gone. All your mistakes have led you here." But she wouldn't allow the shadows to dismiss her life with Jake as mere failure. No, she shouted into the cavern of darkness. I won't give up. Our story is not over. As if powered by her declaration, a wave of warmth surged up from the embers beneath her feet. The darkness hesitated, the shadows recoiling as if stung. Leo's eyes met hers, bright with fierce determination. Together, Mia, we can drive it back. She remembered every moment of strength, each connection they'd built together. With a deep inhale, she focused not just on her pain, but on all the love that surrounded her. She imagined Jake's face again, the way his eyes sparkled with hope during their best moments. This was a shared journey, one that wasn't dependent on failure or fear. Together, she yelled again, drawing energy from Leo, pulling from somewhere deep inside herself. The shadows began to quiver as a wave of blinding light shot from her core, illuminating the void. It felt as if they were setting off fireworks in the pitch dark, the brightness stinging the shadows that had once wrapped greedily around her spirit. But just as the light expanded, an oppressive force swooped down. The sinister voice echoed like thunder around them. You think you can escape me? I am the reflection of every doubt you've ever had. You cannot defeat yourself. Her heart pounded furiously, but within the chaos, another thought emerged. This was not just about fighting the darkness, it was about accepting it. She had failed. She had stumbled. But it was not what defined her. She had to fuse her light with the shadow, embrace the duality of her existence. With every ounce of strength, she yelled, I am not just my failures. I stand for more than that. Suddenly, the ground beneath them vibrated dangerously, and the abyss threatened to swallow her whole yet again. Mia felt tears spring to her eyes, but didn't falter. Instead, she closed them and concentrated on all she had overcome: love received, kindness given, and laughter shared. That's when she realized the shadows shivered, trembling as if her words had shaken them. A new chapter, she whispered, embodying resolve. This isn't just about winning. It's about rising. Then, just as the shadows buckled, she glimpsed a flicker of hope rising in the distance. Light poured forth, illuminating the dark corners they had been fighting. Together, they could overcome this, but it would require facing the deepest, most uncomfortable truths. Mia opened her eyes, determination flooding in. Leo was by her side, grounding her, even as the abyss twisted around them. They had to jump, but as they prepared to leap into the blinding light, a chilling thought pierced through her defenses. Was she ready to confront her worst fears? Could she truly accept all parts of herself? As they leaped forward, a voice called out, You won't escape the past so easily. Could she forge a path through the endless darkness of her own creation, or would this new light fade into nothing before they could reach it? The moment they jumped, it felt like falling through a hole in reality. The light enveloped them, fierce and blinding, but it didn't burn. Instead, it wrapped around them like a familiar embrace, a tapestry woven from their shared memories. Mia dared to hope again, but just as quickly as it ignited, the weight of darkness clawed back, trying to pull them down into the abyss below. Mia, feel it fading. Leo's voice pierced through the haze, panic now lacing his tone. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The light was slipping away, the embrace turning into a wrestling match against icy fingers seeking to snuff it out. Then, as if responding to her desperation, a whisper danced in her mind. Remember, every flame flickers. Drawing on that, she concentrated hard, pushing back against the shadows trying to swallow them. We are stronger together, she yelled against the growing roar of despair. The darkness hesitated again, momentarily distracted. Mia grasped this flicker of hope and focused. Remembrances of family dinners, of laughter with Jake, each moment became a switch, feeding the light growing inside her. But with each recollection, another voice slithered into her thoughts, taunting her. What do you have left? He left you, broken. She shivered at the familiarity of that accusation, but she refused to let it cripple her. No, I am not my emptiness, she screamed into the void. The light pulsed again, harsh and brilliant, casting away shadows that fled like cockroaches at dawn. But even as she fought back, tendrils of darkness wrapped around her legs, tugging them below. Panic surged within her, breathing life into her doubts. What if the light wasn't enough? Mia, don't look down. Leo's urgency sparked through her mind. His grip had strengthened as he pulled her closer, their hands interlocked, grounding her against the fear that loomed. In that moment, something shifted. A strange clarity washed over her. The fear didn't consume. It was merely an echo of her past. Yes, she had failures, but she also had victories. Every moment of laughter, every meaningful connection, resonated as brightly as freshly fueled flames. An explosion of light shot forth from her, not just a blast of illumination but a pulse, a heartbeat merging with Leo's, then weaving in and out of the shadows. It knocked against the walls of the abyss, sending tremors that coursed through the darkness. Yet, just as she felt the control shift, a deafening roar erupted. A whirl of shadows surged towards them, refusing to relent. You cannot escape your truth. I am your past. No, Mia cried, her voice breaking but resolute. You are no more than a piece of my journey. The space began to shake viciously, light and dark battling like titans in a cosmic arena. Veins of anguish clawed at her heart. Images flashed uninvited, every argument, every moment she had felt alone. But with every flicker, she gathered strength. Sometimes she felt lost, but sometimes she felt fierce. Leo, hold on, she shouted, the energy spiraling around them. With me? They became an unstoppable force, inseparable in both light and dark. Together they surged through the writhing mass, a beacon of defiance, emanating strength from their bond. The shadows hissed, but their power trembled visibly. The darkness coiled tighter, and the neck of despair seemed to rise, holding higher stakes. Panic hit Mia like a tidal wave. Would their combined light falter before the storm? Just then, she heard Jake's voice once again, distant but steady. You are more than you know, Mia. A surge of warmth flooded her heart, suffusing every doubt with love and certainty. The light around them exploded, rent by newfound energy, pulling them closer to the core of the abyss. But then came the silence, a breathless moment where the chaos paused. Be ready, whispered an unseen presence, as the world around them seemed to hold its breath. The question hammered at her, a deafening pulse. Could they truly break free, or had they just awakened something much darker? Mia's heart raced as the overwhelming silence began to fade into a familiar hum, a whisper promising both fear and liberation. Darkness twisted around them, retreating momentarily, but the looming abyss gaped wider, daring them to step back into shadows. Mia, Leo shouted. Focus. Hold on to the light. The warmth of the memories surged through her veins, filling every corner of her soul. We're not afraid, she shouted again, her voice bouncing off the void in defiance. We embrace our fears. With a fierce determination igniting in her chest, she felt the tendrils of darkness shrink back, caught in the light spilling from their joined hands. The shadows writhed as though burned by the radiance. She could see them now, twisted souls, echoes of their own doubts and failures, dashing back like a tide receding from an unassailable shore. Together, Mia shouted again, squeezing Leo's hand tighter. We can take this darkness on. We have to face the truth. She focused on Jake's face, a face filled with certainty and support. She pressed on, channeling the strength of their friendship. We have each other. With every syllable, she envisioned the laughter they shared, the tears they cried, and the painful truths they faced together. The very essence that had once trapped them in this nightmare was now the very fuel that shone her brightest. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently as shadows twisted into a colossal figure, a maelstrom of their fears combined. "You think you can defeat me?" The voice echoed, chilling and commanding. "You are nothing without your failures." "No," Mia shouted, her voice steady despite the rumble beneath her feet. "You are wrong. We are our victories." She felt the light pulse around her, illuminating the darkness with the warmth of love and unity. As they united their spirits, they drew deeply from the memories that formed their identities. "Remember who we are," Leo cried as he locked eyes with Mia and Jake. "Mia, remember our dreams, our laughter. That is what we are." Jake lifted his voice above the chaos, and she could feel his unwavering belief in her. "We are more than shadows." With newfound strength, they surged forward, the brilliance of their connection pushing against the abyss. Mia could feel their spirits intertwine, a triad of resilience arising from the deepest fears. The shadows recoiled, the colossus thrashing but losing energy. In that moment, the truth struck her like lightning. The shadows weren't an external force. They were aspects of themselves, regrets, insecurities, pieces of their pasts. Acknowledge it, embrace it. "We accept our darkness," Mia shouted, the finality of her declaration shaking the very foundations of their prison. With a synchronized cry, they thrust their united hands forward, igniting a radiant beam that shot through the blackness. The ground cracked, giving way to an explosion of light that erupted outward. The figure twisted, eyes wide with rage as it found no footing. "You cannot do this," it shrieked, the fragmented shadows dissolving like mist in the morning light. "Yes, we can," they cried as one, a battle hymn of defiance swelling between them, crashing against the walls of despair. "We will rise." Then, with a flash brighter than the sun, the darkness shattered. Mia felt a rush of warmth, the shadows evaporating into nothingness. The ground below opened wide, swallowing all remnants of despair while lifting them into the skies above. Mia gasped as they landed gently, back in the familiar woods beneath the oak tree, the fires now glowing quietly. The cool night air wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. "We made it," Mia whispered, her breath a mixture of disbelief and relief, looking at Leo and Jake, their faces painted with raw wonder. "Yeah, we did," Jake replied, his smile breaking the tension, illuminating everything around them. "We fought back," Leo added, a proud glimmer sparkling in his eyes. But then, there it was, the lingering echo of shadows beneath the oak and a distant, ominous whisper. "You've faced the darkness. But remember, it never truly lies dormant." Mia shivered at the reminder, but instead of fear, warmth encased her heart. They had transformed the worst pieces of themselves into strength. The thoughts flickered in her mind: what if the scars, the battles, were their greatest stories? This was the moment. They had won for now, but they would face the darkness again, together. Resolved, she placed her hand over her heart and smiled. "And we will be ready." As dawn broke, casting a golden hue across the horizon, Mia took a deep breath. They had stepped into the light, clinging fiercely to the hope that gift-wrapped each moment. "Let us go home," she said softly. And with that, they turned, each step lighter, more assured, casting glances at each other, no words needed. They uncovered a battle, faced their shadows, and emerged victorious. Their hearts felt full, ready to embrace whatever came next. This was just the beginning of their journey. Now is your moment. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this community alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finale. Your support means the world. Let's stand strong together.